The best of the week on Relevant Radio.
He describes his own journey from being an agnostic to faith while working as an oncologist surrounded daily by cancer, suffering, and death. He joins me today to share his amazing story. Doctor, thanks for your time and thanks for your book. What a great read.
Thank you, Drew. It's great to be on your show. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate what you're doing here. I don't want to give your story away. I hope others will pick up the book. It's for those who are suffering, those who are in this hospital room. It's for those in the medical community. It's a read for everybody, really. Let's start with you. Let's start about your medical career. You started your career as a religious skeptic, an agnostic. Tell us why you entered, of all things, in oncology and ultimately take us through your journey.
Yeah. Well, I had been baptized in the Baptist church as a boy, but I just sort of had lost my faith as a teenager, that sort of smart aleck way of looking at things. Although I must say you raised some good questions, like why is there suffering? Yeah. But I don't think I was really interested in the answers. I was just proud of myself for my clever questioning. And, just by the time I was through being a teenager, I'd say completely lost my faith. I just felt like it was all Santa Claus, basically. And I just never thought about it. It just never concerned me one way or the other. And I just got after it and did all my medical training and just science, medicine. I really loved it, though. I mean, I still do. I love medicine. I love science, just this way of, understanding what's going on in the body and sort of applying that to the patient in front of you. And that's part of why I went into oncology, just because it was really so complicated and so interesting. So much was going on, and it was getting to where we could understand what was really causing the cancer. And this was making us understand how we might be able to target exactly what was causing the cancer or harness the immune system. I'll have to say at the beginning of my career, that was sort of the dream, but you could see it coming. And it was really exciting and interesting. And that's what led me to oncology. But, as I've learned through the rest of my life as a doctor, that, what's really wonderful about oncology is not just that stuff, but also just these wonderful relationships that you develop with patients. I mean, you're really helping people. But that was not at all what I was interested in way back in the day. So back then, just all science, all medicine, all the time, no humanities, no religion, and that's about it.
But was it about money, too? Because, I know some people who do orthopedics and stuff like that. I mean, really, it's about volume with them. Yeah. The more they do, the more they make, right? And
right.
It's the way it is. And medicine has kind of changed a little bit over the years. But and then you can get disenchanted because you go to work. I mean, did you ever at this point, without God really being that vibrant in your life, did you grow a little immune or insensitive to suffering? Did you understand it? I mean, how did you view suffering in these patients dying from cancer?
Well, honestly, I feel like I was a little bit cold. Now, you asked if it was about money, and it really wasn't for me. It's a field where you'll make money as a side effect, but I was never really going after the money. I was going after what was interesting. But I don't know. I was a little cold and all business, and I knew what I was doing, and I did what I did, and that was about it. But fortunately, God sort of broke into my life, and he woke me up. I was in a research lab doing some really interesting molecular biology research and talking about our field with my mentor there, a guy from Oxford. And we were the only ones in the lab, and it's just one of these incredibly interesting scientific discussions rolling along. And again, I had not a thought of God in the world. And from off to the side came a voice that said, "Isn't this a little too amazing to have just happened?" And it was just a kind of a quiet, normal tone voice, and it just hit me like a hammer. And it just woke me up, really, in that moment. In that moment, I knew how deep this question was, and it wasn't the kind of question that I ever asked. And I wasn't even sure exactly what it was asking, but it was essentially saying to me that you are on the surface, and there's something way deeper that you're missing out on. And, think about it. And fortunately, I listened to that. I mean, I saw it as a wake-up call that I was missing out on something much deeper, and it led me to thinking and wondering I sensed that it was something having to do with religion or theology or philosophy or whatever. I just didn't know, but I was suddenly seeking and began to read a lot in areas that I didn't read in before. And eventually, over a long time, just sort of read myself into a theistic worldview and ultimately into Christianity, ultimately into Catholicism. But I'd say it was so much more than just reading. It was just a bunch of experiences of, I would have to say, love. God's love from all these different directions, and, experiences of nature and music and beauty, experiences of love from my wife, and especially the love that you have of your children. I mean, my first children coming along, it's just like, wow. The first one, I'd never experienced that. My middle son now had just had his first child, and just to see that look on his face, I know where he is. And so it was that, and I had 3 sons, and each time just this incredible love. It's like infinity plus infinity plus infinity. And you're looking at all this, and you're saying, so this worldview, this materialistic worldview that has no room for God, says that ultimately all these beautiful experiences are actually meaningless. And at some point you think about that and you go, well, no, they're full of meaning. And I guess I have to believe one or the other, but I believe that there's beauty and truth in this world, and that's what I'm going to put my money on, basically.
Yeah, those transcendentals are withdrawals to God. They're a reflection of God, the good, the true, the beautiful. And I love your story, too, because I've often said this, too. I think if anyone is searching for truth, and they honestly really want to follow it. I mean, you had an intellectual pursuit, you read, and it led you there. There's some great conversion stories the same way, and I would encourage others to do the same thing. Get answers to your questions. Pursue them. Be open to that. Be open to the Holy Spirit as you apparently were. God was working in your life, and he draws us all to him in different ways. Some through the intellectual pursuit, some through goodness or truth or beauty, some through suffering, circumstances, all sorts of ways. Did you ever, was there a patient or an encounter somewhere along the way that, I don't know, shook your skepticism about God or gave you a meaningful moment which was helpful in your conversion?
Yeah, I would say, actually, that's what I was going to mention, that all these experiences that I had, some of the most important experiences were experiences with patients who were just sort of deep in the depths of having cancer, and you'd think they'd all be curled in on themselves. But what they were doing is they reached out to me and developed friendships. I mean, they cared about me. The first friend I had who was a patient, during our first discussion, she just sort of sits up on the edge of her chair and looks me in the eye and says, "Dr. Collins, are you a Christian?" Wow. And so all I could say at the moment was, no, I'm open and I'm thinking about it, but I can't say I'm a Christian. And, she told me later on that she and her pastor had talked about that and had decided that she should go ahead and have me as her doctor, because maybe God meant for her to be my patient and for me to be her doctor. And I would just have to say that we developed this rich friendship, and I still think of her. And, I'd say that she's right when she said that maybe God meant for her to be my patient. I'm blessed by that. And there were many more.
You had a patient named William, also that you wrote about. So.
Yeah. Yes, William, a long story. And all I can say is that he's just a very, very prayerful man. And through his prayer, he came up with the idea that maybe he needed to stop a certain medication, which was this craziest thing I'd ever heard. Right. And, we managed to talk him out of it. But with a little bit of time, it turned out that I needed to do sort of an innovative treatment on him. And it turned out that the way to do that was to stop the very medication that he was talking about in the first place, that he had sort of discerned through prayer. So I was very much open when, later we became friends. And later when he told me that in prayer he had discerned that he needed to give me a particular gift, and here it was. And it was a copy of Mere Christianity. Wow. And it was just a nice hardcover, copy, awesome. And the kind of book that you're going to read, not the dingy old paperback. So that was a generous gift from my dear patient, William.
That was the best of the week on Relevant Radio. The best way to listen to the best of the week is on the Relevant Radio app, free and always free. Download and share the #1 free Catholic app today in the App Store.